Okay, so let's dive into this. We've got quite a bit of material here on a pretty significant political move down in Florida.
Yeah, State Senator Jason Pizzo, right.
Yeah.
Leaving the Democratic Party.
Exactly. He's registered now with no party affiliation. And we're not just looking at the headline news here. We want to unpack what this might mean, in Florida, but also maybe zoom out a bit. Look at the bigger picture of party dynamics in the U.S.
Mm-hmm. And we've got sources from Fox News, Tampa Bay Times, CBS Miami, WFSU, AP, Wikipedia, even a Reddit thread, actually.
Right. So the goal, our mission for you is to pull out the really key stuff, the important takeaways from all that, without getting totally bogged down in every single detail. Just give you what you need to understand what's happening and why it might matter.
Okay, so the main event, Senator Jason Pizzo, he was actually the Senate Democratic leader.
Yeah. Key point.
And he didn't just, send an email. He announced this on the Senate floor. Pretty dramatic.
Very. And he was pretty direct about his reasons. He said, and this is a quote, "The Democratic Party in Florida is dead."
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. He did add that, maybe good people could revive it, but he didn't think he was the one to do it.
So stepping away from that role specifically.
Right. And he had some pretty strong words about the modern party, too. Said it craves and screams anarchy and then demands amnesty. Also mentioned it wasn't his father's party anymore.
That's quite a critique.
And later he made a more general point, saying partisanship, intense party loyalty holds us back rather than propels us forward. Kind of a broader statement there.
So how did the party react? The Florida Democrats?
Predictably, not well. The chair, Nikki Fried, she came out swinging, called Pizzo ineffective and unpopular.
Ouch.
Yeah. And she framed the whole thing as an embarrassing temper tantrum. Basically said it was because he failed to get support within the party for potentially running for governor.
The ambition angle.
Exactly. She even said the party is more united without him. So clearly no love lost there.
Yeah, that's pretty definitive. But what about his colleagues, the other Democrats in the Senate?
Their reactions seemed a bit more mixed, maybe. Some expressed surprise, sure, but others pointed out that Pizzo is known as an independent thinker.
Right. Someone who operates independently was another phrase used, I think.
Yeah. So it sounds like this wasn't completely out of character for him, even if the timing or the way he did it was a shock.
Okay, so that's the immediate fallout, but maybe we should talk about the context here. Florida politics right now.
Absolutely crucial.
Yeah.
Because Florida, well, it's leaned pretty heavily Republican recently.
Yeah, the numbers are stark. Republicans have a huge voter registration advantage, over 1.2 million more registered Republicans than Democrats.
And that translates to power. They control every single statewide office, governor, cabinet, everything.
And the legislature, too, right? Supermajorities.
Yep. Supermajorities in both the state Senate and the House, which, for anyone listening, that means they have more than 2/3 of the seats. So they can pass laws much more easily, less need for Democratic votes.
So Democrats are really in a tough spot statewide.
Definitely. And Pizzo leaving isn't like the first crack in the dam either.
Ah, right. There were those other switches.
Yeah, just after the November elections, 2 members of the Florida House, Susan Valdez and Hillary Castle, they both switched from Democrat to Republican.
And Valdez even presided over a House session as a Republican.
And she did.
Yeah.
Which really, hammers home the shift. So with these defections, including Pizzo now being NPA, no party affiliation.
Democrats are down to 10 seats in the Senate out of 40?
10 occupied seats, yeah. Plus there are 2 vacancies currently. So it's a really small caucus now. It just paints a picture of a party facing some serious challenges in Tallahassee.
Okay, so context established. Let's circle back to Pizzo himself, his background, potential motives. You mentioned he's seen as an independent thinker.
Yeah, and often described as more of a centrist Democrat. He's a former prosecutor and apparently is, sometimes sided with Republicans on certain issues.
So not necessarily as sort of down-the-line progressive.
That doesn't sound like it.
Yeah.
That independent label keeps coming up.
And the governor speculation, that seems important too.
Definitely feels like part of the conversation. He's reportedly on the short list, or at least mentioned, as a possible candidate for governor in 2026. Governor DeSantis is term limited, so that seat's opening up.
And Pizzo himself linked leaving the party to running. How did he put it?
He said removing the party label lets him run free and clear, clean and transparent, and help many, many more. So connecting it directly to a potential run, or at least broader appeal.
Interesting. He'd previously said he wouldn't run as an independent, but now?
Now he's keeping the door open, it seems. which of course lines up with what Nikki Fried and another Democratic leader, Fentress Driscoll, were saying.
That's all about ambition.
Pretty much. They suggested his gubernatorial hopes were the main driver, and that he'd kind of been distancing himself from the party anyway for a while.
There was also that incident the day before his announcement, a heated exchange on the floor.
Right, there was some reporting on that. He apparently used some strong language, but one of his colleagues doubted that specific fight was the main reason.
Suggested it was more about his general independence streak, something he'd been thinking about.
Yeah, that seems plausible too. Maybe a mix of factors. Okay, so this feels like a good point to maybe broaden the lens a bit. Look at party switching historically in the U.S.
Yeah, because this kind of thing, politicians changing parties or affiliations, it's definitely not new. We've seen major realignments throughout American history.
For sure. I mean, you go way back to the 1850s. The Whig Party just disintegrated.
Over slavery, primarily. Huge internal tensions.
And that basically paved the way for the Republican Party to emerge, right? They picked up a lot of northern Whigs, even some anti-slavery Democrats.
Yeah.
Shows how a single massive issue can just reshape everything.
Absolutely. And then fast forward to the mid-20th century, the civil rights era.
Another huge shift. The Democratic Party taking a strong stance on civil rights.
Led to a massive realignment, especially in the South. You had generations of white conservative voters who were Democrats switching to the Republican Party.
The whole Southern strategy discussion comes in here. Republicans actively appealing to those voters.
Right. And even more recently, think about the Trump presidency. We saw politicians on both sides switching parties or becoming independents, often citing him or his policies as the key reason.
So the motivations can vary a lot, right? Why someone switches.
Definitely. Sometimes it's genuinely ideological, a feeling that, my views just don't fit this party anymore.
Like maybe Pizzo feels about the Florida Democrats based on his comments.
Possibly. But other times, ambition is clearly a factor, or political calculation, like the Wikipedia source mentioned Arlen Specter.
Yeah, he switched from Republican to Democrat late in his career.
And part of the calculation, reportedly, was thinking he had a better chance of winning a Democratic primary than a Republican one at that point, improving re-election odds.
Which sounds a bit like the accusations against Pizzo, doesn't it? Trying to find a clearer path, maybe as an independent or NPA candidate.
It certainly fits that narrative. So ideology, ambition, political pragmatism, it's often a mix.
Okay, and this connects to that Reddit discussion we looked at, which got into this whole idea of the parties switching platforms over time.
Yeah, the classic did the Democrats and Republicans switch debate. It's complicated, isn't it?
Very. It's not like they just swapped entire platforms overnight.
No, the consensus in that discussion, and it lines up with history, seems to be more about realignment than a simple switch, especially voter coalitions shifting.
Like the civil rights example again. The Dixiecrats, those Southern Democrats, largely moving over to the Republican Party over racial issues. That changed both parties significantly.
Exactly. That's a key part of the realignment story. It shows how social issues can drive these massive shifts in who supports which party. Maybe echoes of that in Florida today, though the specific issues are different.
Although some people in that Reddit thread argued, that on core economic issues, maybe business versus labor, the parties haven't flipped quite as dramatically.
Right. That the shifts have been more pronounced on social and cultural issues. It's definitely a nuanced picture, not a simple A-B swap.
So bringing it all back to Senator Pizzo, his move seems to really highlight the weakened position of Democrats in Florida. They're already outnumbered, and this is another blow.
Yeah, it points to internal struggles, maybe ideological divides within the Florida Democratic Party, or at least a disconnect between Pizzo and the current leadership and platform. His reasons versus their accusations. It paints a picture of conflict.
And when you put it next to that history of party switching and realignment,
it really just reminds you that party labels aren't set in stone. American political history is full of these shifts, driven by big issues, changing demographics, you name it.
That whole debate about the party switch underlines how the defining issues and the groups supporting each party can really change over time.
So why does this Florida story matter to you, listening? Well, understanding these shifts, this fluidity, is pretty key to making sense of politics today.
Yeah, whether you're just trying to keep up or maybe you need to understand these dynamics for work or something, it helps you see past just the R or D label. Get a sense of the forces underneath.
And the reasons why someone like Pizzo might make this move, ideology, ambition, reading the political tea leaves in Florida, these are the kinds of factors driving political decisions everywhere, really. It gives you a clearer lens on the whole process.
Okay, so wrapping this up, maybe a final thought to leave you with. Considering everything we've discussed, Florida's changing political map, the history of party realignments.
Yeah, how might these individual choices, like Pizzo leaving his party, actually influence the bigger picture, the future direction of politics, not just in Florida, but maybe nationally?
Could we be seeing the start of more significant shifts as new issues come up, as different voter groups become more important?
It's a compelling question. This situation with Senator Pizzo, it really serves as a kind of live case study, doesn't it? Watching the evolution of American political parties happen right now. Something to keep an eye on.